That's not that long ago.
Correct. Well, yeah, I work or partner with another gal in the industry who's part of the community, and she literally had to work behind the scenes with insurance companies to allow partners to be the second insured because they weren't legally married. So what's the insurable interest? And I mean, she literally had to go to courts and to battle to be able to have your significant other included because the federal law or whatever says that you can't. And that was only, like you said, 18, 20 years ago. It was late 90s when this happened. And I think she's probably about, I don't know if I don't want to incorrect her age, but I mean, I say she's closer to 50 than she is 40, and so she was young in the business too, and it's changed night and day, and she's very much of an advocate too, so I'm thrilled to be able to partner with her as well.
Making sure that the benefits go to the right person, you've got this partner that you've been with for so many years, and you've built this life together, and because of some silly laws that, everything couldn't go to that person naturally,
Correct.
which if a normal husband and wife were there. So it's nice that there's somebody looking out saying, hey, there's another side to this long-term care planning that people aren't really servicing. So it's nice to know that you're doing that. It's
a complex world, and that's where we simply want to open the dialogue. And no question is the silly question. And again, whether you have $1 or $1 million or 100,000, I don't care. Give us a call or read the book. Because you need to have the conversation. It's so incredibly important to have. And, I'm just, like I said, I'll say every day, I just want to help people.
You're listening to Planning for the Future with our guest, long-term care advisor Erin Sinclair. For a free copy of Erin's book, call 314-576-4844.
So what are the first steps? I mean, obviously getting started is the biggest thing. Just get started some way, somehow, and you can make adjustments as things go along, but just getting started. So what's the first step to getting started? Like when a client comes in to see you, what is like the procedure?
Well, generally, I mean, it's the conversation. What do you want to happen? If you got sick, where would you want to go? Of course, you'd want to stay home, ideally. Well, what does that look like? And then we have to figure out how much would that cost and assets and things of that. But it's mostly writing down, the goals and the wishes of the person. The investments or the insurance, the behind the scenes, those are all vehicles to put those plans in place. But just having the conversation on paper that says, if X happens, Y needs to happen, type thing. But the hardest part is having that conversation,
right?
And then bringing your significant other or your whomever to the table and saying, because the younger the person is, whether it's the child or whatever, they don't want to talk about it, but it needs to happen. I mean, it's not an if you pass away, it's when you pass away. And with the statistics like you brought up earlier, it's actually closer to about 75% now. They're showing that people over the age of 65. So realistically, it's going to affect you some way, somehow. So I say it's never too early to plan, because with COVID has proven, a lot of things can happen when you don't have planning. So just sit down, have a conversation, and go from there.
Yeah, and like we said, it's changed so much over the years as far as like what you can do, and if you get started. Mm-hmm. And you find out that it's not as scary as you thought it was.
Correct.
Then you can make more adjustments and move on and do a little bit more and say, hey, wow, this is really kind of a good idea. I didn't know that we could do this. I didn't know we could do that. I do want to involve my family, my domestic partners, things like that, to make sure that everybody's on board and we're doing the correct thing. And it really is. I know I keep saying that it's easy. It's so much easier. And once you have that initial conversation, mm-hmm. then, that takes the edge off. And it's something we all have to do. It's inevitability.
Well, and the anxiety that you feel every day about the what ifs will go away when you have a plan on paper. And the best part about I say the new type of long-term care insurance, which is the asset-based long-term care, the thing to remember is if you don't spend it, it goes to your beneficiaries just as normal. If you want it back out to spend on something else, you can have it just like normal. If you spend a portion of it, your beneficiaries still get it. But also the best part is, say you have a little bit amount of money and you'd blow through it very quickly if you didn't plan. But if you do plan, you have a little bit of money, now the insurance company picks up the rest of the bill. Some of this is based on your health. There are some options. Some are not based on your health. So even if you are already sick, or if you've had cancers, or you're already diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, there are still options for you, because back since the Pension Protection Act law was passed back in 2009, it allows people who are already sick to get the coverage that they need, because pre-existing conditions shouldn't be a reason that you can't plan. And I think that, the government has done very well in terms when it comes to the long-term care planning, especially knowing how the baby boomers are, retiring each and every day. So I will give thumbs up to the government on that side of things. And again, once you have that conversation, oh my goodness, why didn't I do this years ago, ages ago? And then you start telling your friends about it, and then you're having your lunch and your dinner, and then our conversation is, oh, I did talk to my long-term care advisor, my plan's in place, and you're 55 years old and you don't have to worry about it. Or you're 75 years old and you don't have to worry about it. But I'm always a big fan of plan sooner, plan for the worst, hope for the best, but then if something happens, it's in place.
Right. And think about how you had these multi-generational households, and you would have, the parents and the grandparents all living in the same house, and even the grandkids. And so their long-term care was, well, my daughter's going to take care of me. Mm-hmm. And that has changed so much, because you don't see the multi-generational households. Right. You see families moving apart. Because of technology, you can move farther away. Mom and dad don't necessarily live around the corner from you anymore.
Right.
Even if they weren't in the same house, you generally stayed in the same sort of area. Close enough to over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house. You're right there. You know, I mean, it's an easy enough drive and to be around. But you see them moving. You see the parents becoming snowbirds, mm-hmm. and they're in Arizona, Michigan, whatever, Florida, for, a portion of the year. So they still need stuff there. And also, like you said, because of COVID, not as many people are looking to go into these long-term care facilities. So you can't depend on your daughter, who's an accountant, to be the one to give you long-term care.
Right.
You want to make sure that you have all that set up. And if you're needing the long-term care, do you want your daughter helping you in out of the tub, doing all these things? No, you don't want to do that. And if you plan correctly, you can get that there. Mm-hmm. If you don't plan and you let it go to Medicare and Medicaid, your options are way
right. You're not in charge
yes.
of your options anymore. And a lot of the people, whether you have children or not, they constantly say, I don't want to be a burden to society, or I don't want to be a burden to my family. And this is the easiest way to not be a burden, because you have a plan in place. And I have people who are thrilled to be able to use Medicaid down the line. They have some good money, but they've paid into Medicaid. The facilities near them are great, and that is their option. But we can also plan for their beneficiaries to still receive an inheritance. You don't have to spend your money down to $1 as Medicaid says you have to do. There are some plans that we can put into place, but if you don't know about it, the state will take as much as they can. So I just, again, when I joined in 2008, people work too hard to then give it all away when they get sick when they're 70. And, they want, back in the day, a lot of $10,000. I remember my grandparents got $10,000, and that was a huge down payment on their house at the time, and that was life-changing for them. So obviously the numbers are multiplied due to inflation and things of that nature, but they want nothing more than to help their family, friends, the dog shelters in town, their school. Like I have some money set aside within my life insurance that's going to put 2 scholarships in place. One for Kansas, University of Kansas, where I went, and one for University of Missouri. Yes, I went to both of them. Don't yell at me. And
who do you root for in the border war?
We're not going to talk about that on the radio, but but because it'll help somebody play rugby. It'll help pay for balls. It'll help pay for uniforms and things like that. But unless I have that written in my will, that money may not go to Kansas or to Mizzou, things like that. So again, it's just like you said, the conversation isn't as difficult as you think it is. You just got to make that call and be willing, and again, with COVID, we can do it virtually. We can do it via FaceTime. We can do just a call. I've had some clients, I go and I sit outside their front door and they sit on a chair inside the door because they don't want to open the door yet. But I don't mind. I'll go anywhere to help anybody. And I'm licensed in many states across the nation. So, even if you're not in St. Louis, I'm most likely licensed in your state already, but that doesn't stop us from having a phone call. And most likely I have a counterpart in your state if I'm not licensed.
Right. Well, that's awesome. That's, that really makes it, pretty unique to do things like that, being so open and willing to help out and willing to educate them and letting them know that it's not that scary demon out there. You're not a used car salesman. Right. That's the thing.
Be careful with that though. Coming from my family, I love salesmen, car salesmen.
Yes, I know, but it's the stigma. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
So it's. But that's what, people would think of when it came to long-term care planning. They heard Alex Trebek talking about, hey, make sure you get this you'll get $10,000, but, in the long run, you probably wind up paying twice as much as what you're going to get back.
We got Burt Reynolds doing reverse mortgages now or something.
Yeah,
it's and they're good. They're there to help, but you need to talk to an expert. You need to talk to somebody who is licensed, and I say that I specialize in this because this is the area I care the most about. A lot of agents are general agents, and I'm not saying they're not doing the best that they can for you, but when you work with a specialist in an area, that's why I said at the beginning, I partner. I want to complement your current advisor to make sure that you're fully protected, in a 360-degree view. And if the advisor is good at what they do, they shouldn't hesitate to partner with somebody.
Right. Right.
It's not, there's no worry. Like, we're there for you, the client.
Working together. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you have some really interesting perspectives, and it's been fascinating talking to you. You've got you are an enigma wrapped in a quandary. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. So the name of the book is Don't Go Broke in a Nursing Home, the LGBTQ edition. Mm-hmm. And how can people get a hold of you?
With cell phones these days, we just decided to stick with my local office phone number. It's 314-576-4844. You can always Google the book. And of course, my company's name is Sinclair Financial Solutions. But my office number is the easiest way to get a hold of me. But with the internet these days, I bet you can find me on there.
Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Erin Sinclair, Sinclair Financial Solutions. Hopefully we can talk again sometime. This has been great.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Planning for the Future with our guest, long-term care advisor, Erin Sinclair. For a free copy of Erin's book, call 314-576-4844. Planning for the Future, brought to you by the Elder Care Media Network and produced by thepodcastproshop.com.